But what I'm going to actually discuss right today, something which is there in the spreadsheet, right, which can be actually, you can go that side, which can be actually utilized, right, in your day-to-day work, right, while you are actually handling data. Okay, so let me actually navigate to the next screen. Why spreadsheet? It's been written over here, right? Easy data handling, having maximum data view at a glance. How many of you agree with that? Raise your hands, please. Okay. Oh, there are a few people doesn't agree with first point. Can I ask somebody? Yes.
I don't know how you see tax data view. I don't understand because this is also very objective.
Yes. Basically, the reason I have actually shared, right, handling, it's basically easy data handling. Like when you are writing in SQL query, okay, right, you might have actually used SQL something, MySQL query browser or SQL Server Management Studio or something else, right? When you write in query, okay, and when you navigate, right, how much of data you can actually see at a glance? Let me write one query quickly. Option to actually like minimize this, okay, then you can actually use arrow keys to navigate, okay, and you can basically go down, right? But when you are navigating to the right, you see, you don't see your data in left, do you? No, right? So basically Excel has some feature, right, which can be actually used to view some of the amount of data which can be actually frozen at one side, at the top or left, okay, right, so that you can, anytime you can view that particular data. Like let's say, take an example, here we have agent code and agent name, right? This is something you wanted to actually view all the time, right, while looking into the other pieces of the information, okay? So I'll basically show you how to actually do that in Excel later on. And the good part is, with Excel, like this is basically a one Excel screen, okay, and you can quickly hide columns. Like I don't need this because, but you have to basically adjust your query for that, right? See, time is much more important, okay, right? Because of these smaller pieces of utilities which has been provided in Excel, right, you can actually leverage that, right, and do your task quickly as compared to basically using a query browser or SQL Management Studio, okay? So let's go to the next point. Excel and OpenOffice both have this, okay? Transpose data. What do you mean by transpose? Correct. Convert rows into column and column into rows. And I'll show you a real-time example for that, okay? That is what basically yesterday I was actually creating those lists, right? At that point of time I have used transpose. And then utility to analyze data better, okay? What kind of analysis you might be actually doing, right? If you, let's say basically the Publish project, right? I have actually worked with finding duplicates, right? Okay, finding duplicate entries, right? and Excel has all the tools, all available tools, right, which can be actually used to find duplicate data and analyze those. Okay, so I'll basically show you some example, maybe not in this particular session, but maybe in the upcoming session when I'll be basically discussing some of the cases. Okay, and then perform calculation on the fly. You can actually do all those calculations. Okay, and very easy to actually do that. Okay, I'll show you that. Observe trends. What is this? Trends graphs, right? So you can basically utilize graphs which are there, right, to observe trend. And I'll actually show you a real-time example for that, which I have made an Excel sheet, right, to analyze my team's revenue in Mindfire. I'll show you that. And then connectivity to SQL databases. You can directly connect from Excel. You can connect to SQL databases. Okay, SQL table, and right, have the data over here and analyze the data whatever manner you want to, right? So let's look at spreadsheet. And each column and rows combination is a cell, right? Okay, so everybody knows that. So and this basically is the formula bar. Okay, so you might have actually utilized this formula bar. So first thing is actually analyze the data better. Okay, right, easy handling of data. So let's basically see that. Do you see always what is the ID of that particular row? That is because I'm actually doing some kind of analysis, right? Okay, looking into that particular section. So I'll actually go to the free span, okay, and hit the free span over here, and you see there are two lines. One is a horizontal line and one is a vertical line. Okay. Now let me go down. And you see, basically the header portion has been basically frozen, and the left portion has been frozen. Okay. So when you are actually dealing with data, right, you need to basically you may need to basically freeze some of the data to actually do your analysis.
I want to know one thing.
Pardon?
I want to know one thing means all these features available in open document or
most of them. Most of them. I will basically share whichever is not available. I'll share that this is not available. Okay.
All the features
Yeah, I can basically show you that on the open office. Okay. So I've opened it. Same thing. It's a little slower than Excel, right, but it does the same thing. Okay. I'll basically let you know if something is which is basically not there in. Okay. Now there is another good tool which I like the most. Like if I'm here, if I need to actually go to the end, what should I basically do? What you should do actually. If I need to go to the end of last row, page down, control end. This is, yes, he knows Excel, right? So control end. We are here, okay? Then you need to basically look at, right, where the gap, right, means basically where some of the IDs are missing. How will you check that? Where some of these IDs, right, are missing as a row. How will you check that? Pardon?
You can add a filter.
You can add and filter. Okay, right. So add and filter. You have to go to this, right? Select. Go to home. Filter. How many steps? 4? 4 steps, right? Till now. And then you can actually go here, unselect, and I think it will be basically at the bottom. No blank records. So we have a blank. So you can actually select the blank, right? Okay, uncheck everything and select the blank. So it will basically find you in blank record. Or the quickest way, okay, press the end key and the down arrow key and the down arrow key. Press the end key and the down arrow key. You see where you are reached? Easy, right? Huh? Yeah, just last before the blank. Yeah, basically if you are having multiple blanks, filter is a good option. Okay, but when you are analyzing, right? Okay, it depends actually how you are analyzing. Like when you are actually looking at a blank and you have to basically look at the supported record, right, above, right, and you wanted to actually do some kind of analysis, this is good. If you are wanted to actually look at only the blank records, right, filter is very good, right, because it will filter and actually give you a list of blank records. So that's what the auto filter did for you. Now auto filter has a lot of different options. You can basically have equals to some text, right, does not equals to, begin with, end with, contains, doesn't contains, right, but lot of additional parameters you can actually add here. Here you will save a lot more than what you see on that selection box. Okay, here you have begin with, right, end with. You can actually add multiple condition or condition and condition, and based on that basically it will filter the data, right? Which is again important because I'm only basically talking about analyzing the data. I'm not actually here to actually teach you Excel. Okay, right? Using Excel, how you can actually analyze your data. What are the tools that can be actually useful as a software developer? Okay, right? Fine. So, and the reason basically option to sort, you can actually use this, right? Or you can basically use sort option here. Okay, and you can hit the custom sort where you can actually add multiple labels, right? Group by first field, second field. This means first row and second row. This is how it is. Okay. Okay. So the control end and control home, okay, and down arrow, control end and control home basically behaves little differently, I guess, right, between OpenOffice and Excel. Okay, if you are actually, no, it basically works same. Okay, and down arrow key and up arrow key, I guess basically doesn't work. I've seen in OpenOffice 2, but I'm not sure actually whether it is working over here. case series. No, it's not working. Okay, end and down arrow key doesn't work on OpenOffice. Okay. Actually, OpenOffice is copying Excel, right? So a lot of features they cannot able to bring. Then there is a very nice utility that we have. Let me go to the training session. How I have actually got your name, right, in rows. I wanted to actually show that to you. So what I did is basically selected your names from here. Then I moved into Excel. Okay. I pasted just the text, not the links and anything, just the plain text. Okay, I pasted over here. I wanted your name should not basically starts with a space, right? So what I have done is basically removed all the space, right, bit after comma. Okay, so let me do that. So now everything is in one column itself. You see the second column is blank. Right? You see in the function area. Okay, so let me actually make it a little bigger. This is also there. You can actually utilize this. And you see all the names over here at one cell. Okay. Now, what I'll do is data text to column. Okay. And then delimited with comma, and you see basically it has been divided, right, based on comma. It removed that comma and placed a bar over there. That means basically each data has been converted into columns. Okay, finish. Now you see all names are here, but these are in columns. Right, so we use transpose. So I've copied it, okay, selected all, and again basically to select all, shift and right arrow key. It selects everything, okay. Then form paste spatial, okay. All, and I'll do a transpose. Okay, so you can do a value as well. So I'll actually give you a difference between all of this. Now you see, all your data has been basically converted into this. Good, right? Because this is something which you might actually, if you are handling data, right, in your project, you might need to actually use this, because sometimes actually email addresses are comma separated and you wanted to actually pick one email address, right? Okay, or you wanted to actually like see whether all the email addresses are basically good or not. Okay, so then you can basically do something, okay, right, and transpose it, split it, right, and then if you wanted to use transpose it and actually handle the data. Okay. Go back. So I've discussed transpose. Let me actually go back to the conditional formatting. You might have actually used conditional formatting, right? In your, some of the technology already has that, right? FileMaker has that. Conditional formatting. Any other technology has that conditional formatting on the UI front? Format the data on the basis of conditions.
UI, the UI.
On the UI, yes. No? FileMaker has that, Servo has that, because all these tools which are all these basically quick development tools, right, like FileMaker or Servo, right, they have that. Transpose? No. Okay. So let me show you how we can effectively use conditional formatting, okay, and how it will be helpful. So I have a good number of agents over here. And I wanted to see all BMs, okay? But I don't want to filter because parallelly I wanted to actually see a lot of other things on as per the other data that is there, right? So what I'll do is here conditional formatting, new rule, cell value equals to PM format. I'll use fill red. And you see basically all BMs are actually formatted. Why you wanted to actually use this? Can you imagine basically like in which situation you wanted to actually use this conditional formatting?
The value becomes negative. The value becomes negative.
Value becomes negative. Okay.
You have to see what the there set.
Okay.
Actually, we need to find few data from a big set of data set. That time we can use because it will easily highlight those data. So that time we can use.
Yeah, you can also use filter basically for that reason. Like filter will basically filter the data, right?
But we cannot get all the data at one go.
All the data?
At one go. Here we are getting all the data. And we can just separate out.
Yeah, here you are basically getting all the data. That is the plus point because you are looking into all the data as well as you are looking into those columns, those rows, which basically that column value is given.
You can compare also.
Compare also. Yeah, the color has basically an impact, right? It's basically eye-catching, right? If you actually write an text over there, you might miss a particular row, right? If you make it like background colorful, right, you can actually easily like reach to that particular data. And I have used this particular conditional formatting, right, when I'm actually looking into duplicates. Okay, so I have basically done some calculations and actually found the duplicate record, and I have made a flag called duplicate yes or no. Okay, so normally Excel, like the duplicate thing. Okay, if you actually arrange it, let's say name wise, you have arranged it. Okay, like you have sorted it by name wise. Okay, let me actually show you a few tricks over here. So I'll take this much of Asian name. And I'm making this guy duplicate. and this guy duplicate. Okay, so easier trick for me, right? I'll basically do it, sort it by agent name. Okay, so I know that basically duplicate names will actually come together. Okay, I basically compare this equals to this false. Okay, drag it. It's an easier method. Okay, so writing formulas, and you see this guy is actually showing true, right? But the other guy is actually showing false, because as per the calculation it's checking with the next row, right? So this is not, for me this is not a correct result, isn't it? Like ideally I should have this as true as well as this as true, right? Ideally, okay? But the formula that I have actually written, right, that will not give me the result, okay? So I'm just basically looking into the duplicate. I'm not doing anything. So what I'll do is actually do a conditional formatting. So with this, we say these are the kind of scenario I have used conditional formatting a lot. Okay, while finding the duplicate, while glancing through the data one by one, and I wanted to actually like see some of the records, right, which is having some values, right, some particular value. So I basically use I've used this conditional formatting for that. So, do you have any questions so far? Yes.
Can we use this conditional formatting for highlighting a cell based on the value present in our sheets?
Formula is not supported. That's the problem. Like that's, I have been basically searching for that, right? Till now, I haven't basically that facility is not there. But if you are actually looking, what you wanted to do, just give me an example.
Example will be like in the previous example that you showed. You highlighted all those rows having the record BM.
Correct.
If I want a formula like I want to highlight the BMs whose date of birth is more than certain date.
Okay.
So I need to only highlight those BMs who are born after this date, not all the
Correct.
dates.
So let's do that. Okay. That's basically my next topic, right? So you cannot do it with the conditional formatting, but you can do it some way. Okay, it's little bit. I think let me actually see whether that is the topic. Yes, use of formula. Okay, so I'll basically show it to you how to use the formula to achieve that. This date format is not good, so I'll basically take active A.
Okay.
A as basically I'm just looking into an active BM. Okay, this is what you wanted to actually look at, BM, and it should be active.
Okay.
Let's say, okay, these are the two conditions. So what I'll do is let me actually add a column over here. If this is how the syntax is, and this is equals to BM, comma, G2 is equals to A, then you can basically say
Is the column D2 containing BM?
D2 is BM. Yeah, this is also in type. This is also in type, and I'm taking G as well. So we have no luck over here, and the good part on Excel, right? You can double click on this, it copies the formula. Okay. So let's.
One second, what was the shortcut for that? Copy.
There is something over here. Okay, at the right bottom corner. Okay, and it basically it's there in OpenOffice as well. You can do the same thing, and also you can actually like copy it. Okay, and bottom put the keep the shift key up, right? Control V. Does the same thing. Sometimes basically when you are at this particular cell, it doesn't recognize. If you are here, it will basically recognize the table, right? It basically works with the table that is there at the left side. But if you are here, it will never recognize the table. If you actually put an end key, it basically goes to the end. Okay. So, and you wanted to actually leave few columns. Okay. So at that point of time, what you can do is actually go to the bottom. First, you need to actually freeze your row. And then go to the bottom. Okay. And then I'll basically move to the right, and I'll put a dot over here. Okay. Just a dot. Okay. I'll go to the top. Okay. And then I'll basically write in formula something. Control C and Shift and this, it comes to the dot. Shift and down arrow key, it comes to the dot. Okay, and selects everything, right? And Control V, formula copied. Okay. So what we have done is basically we have used no luck, right? Okay. And we don't have BMs. So I've named this column as lucky. Okay, there are a few records. Basically, we have that has BM and active. Okay, and we can basically apply the conditional formatting on this column, new column. That will solve your issue. Based on some other column, right? You can basically some other columns data. You can write in formula. Which will, and you can basically name, give anything that you want, and then basically put in conditional formatting on that particular column, the new column. Yes, and you're done. Right? Okay.
But we cannot.
But you cannot basically put in formula inside the conditional formatting.
Yes, that was it.
That is the problem. Okay. Eventually, it will come. Maybe the demand is less. Okay. So the other part, you see, basically when I have actually copied this column, when I have double clicked on this, right? First column, this particular one says T2 and G2. Okay. So when I double click it, next becomes D3 and G3. Okay. So what I'll do now is basically I'll freeze G2. Okay. I'll freeze G2. G2 will not change, and only the D column will change. Okay, so let me do that. if you put a dollar in front of this row and column, okay, G, $G will freeze the column, $2 will freeze the row, okay, right? And if you then you do this, and you will find G2 is actually fixed. This is the use of dollar. Okay, this is how you can actually use dollar. And the good example I'll show you a little later. So far, any questions? Is it interesting? Is it?
Here, can we freeze more than one cell at a time?
How many?
Can we freeze more than one cell at a time? Like now we freeze G2, G and G. And that column,
Yeah. Basically, if you freeze this D2, right, you can actually do it. And sometimes, basically, like there is a. Let me actually look for a number over here. Okay, let me generate a number. So I've generated few numbers over here, okay, right, equals to sum of this is a function, okay, so basically you see P2 colon P7593, okay, so this column, this particular cell to this particular cell, right, do the sum. This is what it is saying, okay, right. So basically you can actually freeze both the columns, right? Not in this case because you are not dragging, right? But you can actually freeze both the both columns and rows, right? In both the the starting cell and the ending cell, right? You can actually freeze both of them, okay, if you want. And you can basically on your formula, if you are writing multiple using multiple cells, right, you can actually freeze all of them. So it's based on what you have written in the formula. Based on that, you basically decide because you are actually dragging it, right? Dragging it means basically formula will get copied, okay. So you need to make sure that what should change and what should not change, okay. Based on that, you need to decide which one needs to be frozen, okay.
Can we do any type of condition that if type equal to t, then this will have to like can we give if condition in
Sum if is there. I don't want to actually discuss that, but there is a function called sum if. And you can give a range and you can give a criteria. You can see that at the bottom. Range and criteria. There are a lot of functions which are there. So basically, you get the whole all functions that you are actually using on your normal coding, right? Okay, you will get those in Excel. Everything that I'll show that to you in some time. Okay, so let me actually move on. Any questions so far? No? Okay. If you are feeling bored, right, then you can walk out. Okay. Okay, fine. So, a few important functions I wanted to actually discuss. Open that people. So we have these many peoples, okay, right, listed over here. Initially, I have did a mistake, right? You must be aware of that. I have actually skipped some of the people's name who has actually joined but hasn't actually added their notes, right? in the team space. So I think basically till let me actually use this. So I was having list of people till this initially. Okay, so let me actually copy it and put it on a new worksheet. Okay. So then I have actually taken the data from that text to column, right? Okay. So that way, let me actually pull out that data. We've done some of it. So assume that I have done all those text to column, right, and then transpose, okay, and I have got this final list over here. I'm just copying that particular list on sheet 2. And this particular list was in a sorted order. Okay, because these names are in sorted order. Okay, now I need to actually find out, right, who are the people basically where they are on my list, whom I have actually put on batch 1 and 2, right, and who are the people basically missing from this list. Okay, so this is what I have done. Equals to VLOOKUP. Stands for vertical lookup. This is a very, very nice and very good function basically we can have in an Excel sheet. Okay. Lookup value. I wanted to actually look this particular value. Okay. Right. And then I have a table array, right, where I wanted to actually look this particular value, which is I wanted to look at this, fine, and then column index number. If you have selected a table, right, let me actually do that. Sorry. Okay, again do the same exercise. Look up. So I'm going to use this particular table over here. So I've taken 2 columns. Okay, this is basically something which is important for you to note down. The lookup value that you are looking into a different table, right, that table's first column should be where it should look up. Okay, it will never look up in other columns, right? I've chosen 2 columns over here. It will never look up at other columns, right? It will always look up in first column. Okay, and then I'll say return me, right, from that table, return me the column number 2. Okay, I added 2 over here. Okay, column number 2, because the 2 column my selection has 2 columns, correct, right? So I basically selected column number, return me column number 2. Okay, and I want, this is basically approximate match and an exact match, right? Usually I use exact match, so I use false. Okay, done. Now, what happened is basically it brought the join, right, from the other side to this side. It's very similar to relationship. Related data. You are basically picking up related data from a different table to this table.
Same as join.
Same as join, yes. Same as join. Right? But the good part is, right, here you can actually do a vertical lookup as well as horizontal lookup. Both are available. You can do an horizontal lookup and the vertical lookup. Both can be done. Okay. So now what I'll do is actually I'll copy this formula. So many not available. But that's not true, right? Because a lot of, if I basically filter this, you see the count 74 over here? How come 74 people are not, like basically almost 60 odd people are there, right? Who should match. Correct? How come it is basically 74 it is showing not available? Any idea? Any idea? I've just
this sorted using from where the sorting name doesn't match, after that will both match. That will be one case.
you look at basically, I'm just moving my look at that particular screen and the formula bar, specifically this area. Okay, look at this particular screen and see what actually you see may be a problem. Come again? No. We have just discussed. We have discussed sometimes before. Vijit was closer. What you have said? You have said something, right? No? Huh? Formula of what? This one? Freezing? Mm-hmm. Correct. Basically, what it is doing is when you go down in, you see B3 to C64, which is actually changing the total table. Correct? Right? So what we should be actually doing, right? We should make it as $, $. Okay? And now I copy this. Okay? And let's see how many of them are there. 33, which is correct. Okay? Because of that, you need to be very careful. Sometimes basically if you don't use it correctly, right, it will give you a different result, right? And you, sir, I'll not use Excel. Okay. Right. So we look up sum, count. These are actually few functions which are commonly used. Okay. And I've used a function called find. Okay. And little intelligently we have used that. As basically looking into email addresses. Okay. So one column had multiple email addresses. Okay. And I need to actually find out how many columns are there. Okay. Which has more than one email address. How will you check it? Logically? How many rows are there? Sorry, how many rows are there which has more than one email address? There is one column. One column has lot of email addresses, comma separated, can be a semicolon separated, can be a colon separated, whatever it is, right? But it has multiple email addresses. Two times more than basically one. Okay? That should be actually the way, right? So there is a function called find. Okay. What find returns is, let me actually show you. So we have, let's say a@b.com, okay, and c@d. Okay, sorry, I've written in two columns, so let me actually add it. So you can do this as well. Okay, ampersand. Sorry, where is that? Ampersand, double quote, comma, ampersand, this will add those two columns. Good, no? Right? So, and this is actually a trick. There is, let me actually share a few examples. Some of the cases, right, I have actually we have extracted data specifically when I was basically working for Aviva. They were having huge amount of data. Okay, and primary key no, they need also. There is no primary key, right? You need to actually use multiple keys to actually create a primary. And lot of analysis we have done, right, where I have to basically look at the data and see whether the calculation, because they were having a persistency calculation which were having 3 layers, right, and that persistency calculation has been basically dependent on several pieces of data. Okay, so we were actually basically taking that data into an Excel sheet and actually calculating. So we will have to basically do some kind of relationship, establish some of the relationship with the sample data. But keys are not there, VLOOKUP will not know. Okay, so we have used this technique, right? Multiple columns, we have basically added and created a key. Okay, but the problem is basically some of the time at that point of time, not sure that is true at this moment because it was Excel 2003 at that point of time we were using. So what we used to do is, because this is a formula, right, it doesn't give the data, actual data, right? Okay, so let me add another one. So it was not giving me the actual data. Okay, so what we have done is basically selected the column after the calculation is been done, hit copy, Control C, okay, then paste values. Okay, there is a formula on that particular cell. Okay, if you copy that cell and paste it as a value, that will automatically get converted to value. The formula has been erased, right? This is also much more important because some of the time, right, you might need to actually use the value rather than the formula. Most of the time, basically, like Excel takes the value in that particular cell rather than the formula. Like the formula that has been generated, whatever the value, right, it takes that. Some of the cases I have seen, I don't remember exactly, some of the cases I have seen, right, in 2003, right, it hasn't taken the value, it has basically taken the formula. So if it is taking the formula, right, further calculation will go over and toss. Okay? So that is the reason we have converted this to the value. Okay. So now let me actually use that particular formula how I have selected. Find. Who has said find? Somebody. Somebody has basically said find at the rate. Who has said? Who has said? Huh? You have said. Okay. So let me use find. Okay. Find. What text I am finding is actually at the rate, comma, right? Within text is this, comma, starting number 1, right? What it will give has given basically 2. Okay. But that's basically the position of that at the rate. Okay. Which is improper. Okay. Because what I'll do with the position of the at the rate? I've added another find. Okay. At the rate, comma, same, comma, whatever number the first find returned, right? I've basically done in plus 1. 10. Okay. Let me drag this. Error. So I basically selected whichever is not an error. I filtered all those I thought whichever is not an error, right? And basically taken that particular data, which gave me basically the email addresses, basically, which is having more than one email addresses. This is what the technique.
But it's why 10? But why it's 10?
10 is basically a number, right? Because first is found, right, actually at second position, right? So what we have done is basically we have next point, for the next point we have started with the third position, 2 plus 1. Okay, so it basically found the 10th position. It has found basically the. So if I actually change it, so basically value changes.
Then my question is that if you have 3 email IDs, then that formula will not work. If you have 3 email IDs, then that formula will not work.
No, basically it will still be basically some numbers will be there, right? Okay, you will know that there are multiple email addresses which are there. It will be 14 again, but it doesn't matter, right? Because you need to. The most important thing is you need to filter out the ones which is having values.
So you are checking it's more than 1 or not?
More than 1 or not.
But if you need to get the count, it's how many are there?
Yeah, that is possible also, but you have to write in little more functions, basically to functions, under functions, and actually get it. But you try it out. This is basically a good task for you guys. Actually try it out. Basically look at all the functions and basically try it out. How you will actually get the actual number of email addresses in a particular form.
Character counts.
Something, some way. Just do it. Right? This is basically a good way of exploring all the functions that are there. Okay, so we have discussed about functions, and you can actually look at. You can go to this formula, okay, hit functions, use all, or these are the different categories of functions which are available, okay. Similar thing you will find in MSDN or wherever, right? SQL Server, they have also categorized on the basis of financial, date and time, and blah blah blah, right? Correct? Isn't it? MSDN it has categorized, SQL, MySQL it has been categorized, right? They have already categorized by this, right? So you can actually look at the text functions and you'll get all different text functions which are there, and find is one. Okay, and then replace function is there, mid is there, trim is there. Trim is basically trimming the leading and trailing space. Substitute is there, it will substitute the. So lot of functions are there which can be actually used, right? to do some kind of analysis. Okay. And most of these functions will be actually available on OpenOffice as well. VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, all these are actually available. A lot of functions, I can show it to you. They have functions over here, insert functions. Okay, and you can see all these different categories of functions. Same. Another. So VLOOKUP is also there. Right? So almost similar, right? All the functions you will get. काम हो जाएगा तुम्हारा. Okay. So next, we'll discuss about charts. How many people have used charts in Excel? Huh? How many people have used charts in Excel? Graph chart. You have used for one or? Huh? Percentage. So basically, I'll show you some report. Okay, before that, where you should actually use charts or graphs for your analysis. What are the, you have data, right? Some data, right? Where do you think that you should be using charts or graphs? Without any client requirement, please. Huh? Need means basically client requirement.
Just for graphical view, we were quick analysis. What is the progress?
What is the
You want to
progress?
draw some
Progress of what?
progress in anything in the analysis.
No, when we need to see a group of data in a some specific category, so what is the percentage of this group, that group. So but we
We want to get information from the particular set of data.
Correct. But basically, my whole question is actually on your day-to-day programming life. Where do you think you should utilize this?
Review daily expense for a particular
Expense.
like allowance. What is
Yeah, basically, like we are not doing that, but
we can.
how much?
We can.
We can.
I think data comparison is easier with the graph for previous progress and current progress.
We are going a little too towards financial and all those. Like what I am basically looking into, like on our what data that we have where we can actually apply a chart.
task, whatever task everything are doing.
Correct. Yes. Time sheet. You can actually apply graphs on the time sheet to understand how you perform. Isn't it? Too much? Because you are basically giving, see, the whole point is actually you are giving time sheet to your client, right? A lot of people must be basically giving time sheet to their client. Okay. How many times, once you have entered a particular hour, right, or on a particular day, how many times you basically revisit that and see that is it basically good hours that I have achieved? Or how is my progress basically from the past 1 month till now? How I'm doing as a fresher or as an experienced person? We don't do usually. एक बार डाल दिया तो पत्थर तो लगेगा, वही change नहीं होगा, right? So the whole point is basically like you can do that, okay? You can evaluate yourself, right? You are sending timesheet in an Excel, you are using Excel, okay? Right? Or you are basically extracting from some software and sending it to the client. Or maybe basically the client is having some software and there must be basically some kind of export feature to Excel, okay? But we are not doing that, but we can do that. Okay. Second, any other thoughts? Timesheet is a good one. When you are reporting errors on your particular application, okay, production में है, okay, and error reporting हो रहा है, and you are basically having those data in a database, if let's say all maybe a text file or whatever, and you must be basically recording different types of error codes and all those. Your client or basically your creator is an Excel sheet, right, to analyze your log. Created a graph, how many same type of issue are basically occurring in a month? Like you're recording the error codes, right? And there might be a chance, right? There is an exception handling, and it's basically one function unknowingly actually producing a lot of errors, right? And it has moved to production, nobody is aware of that is happening, right? But is there any way to actually find that out? Because when you look at data, right, at a glance you might actually see those, right, if it is basically 80-20 split, 80% of that same error, right, and 20% of different error, then you might actually be able to see it, right? But if the error is actually like splitted in 20-20-20, then rest of 20 basically like splitted into multiple different error codes, right? You might not be able to actually see it. Correct. Okay. So you can actually use some graphs for that. Okay. To see like how many errors has been generated per error code, right? Which is actually which is the one which can be actually addressed first, which is the one can be actually addressed later, whatever, like you can create an Excel sheet, connect it to your SQL Server, and actually you just open your Excel sheet, refresh the data and see it. Oh. Let me actually look at that and see, try to find out what exactly it is. Oh wait, you might actually want to do it. May not, if it is too much. So what I have done is basically I have taken GPS data. Okay. GPS we have so this is for my own use, okay, right? So we have GPS data, right, where I'm basically having this receipts, payment, right, all those stuffs, okay. So all these receipts, right, I have basically used to actually copy and paste it onto an Excel sheet, okay. So up to this, basically up to column H actually like it has been, this GPS gives me this data, okay. Then I have basically added some formula over here, and you see I have added a key over here, Okay, right? So actually identify uniquely one record. Okay, and then I have basically add some percentage, some rates, right? Rates is again in VLOOKUP. What I have done is basically there is a site called exchange rates. Okay, and you can do this as well. Right? You can actually have a link which will point to a site, right? You can do that. So it basically gives me the rates over here on this particular site. So every month end I picks up a rate and actually put it over there, okay? And it gives the complete rate, and you see I've started this from 2007.
If you click the link automatically.
It will not automatically update. I haven't basically done any programming over here. It basically opens up that particular link, and you can actually like put the US dollar versus rupees, and euro versus rupees, and like pound versus rupees, and okay. So you see basically like here I have actually calculated the key, right? Day, year, month and currency. Based on that I have calculated in key, and that key I have used over here. This is also in key. So I am basically deriving the rate over here, okay? Then I am calculating what is the total over here. Now after this, after I get this particular data, right, what I have done is basically created few pivot tables. I will discuss that pivot tables with you little next. In a short period. And then this is basically what's the total month wise, year is there, right? These are my clients, and basically this is what the value is, okay? So then I have basically compared that, right? Like year wise, how I am basically, how my team is actually progressing on the revenue side. Okay, so this is what it's year wise information. This is actually analysis client wise. Here I can actually look at which is the most valuable client for me, right, in terms of revenue, right? So that is why I have used this chart over here. And then I've used basically financial year wise actually how I have grown, okay? Right. My team has grown rather. So then that information is. So like when you are having data, you can actually create all these things for you, right? If you have the availability of data, you can actually use Excel sheet, right, to create reports for yourself. Okay, for you, like you don't want to actually go to that data and write hundreds of queries to actually find out all the relevant information that you need. You don't need to do that, right? You can utilize, right, the Excel. I don't know OpenOffice has connectivity to SQL or not, okay? But even if you can actually use the log file directly as it is, I'll show it to you, okay? How to use the TXT file to generate a report directly. If you change the TXT file value, automatically if you refresh your report, automatically the value will be refreshed. Easy. Huh? Yeah, that is why I am here. So, so the whole thing is actually like you need to actually look at, right, on your basically range, right? What is the data available and how you can actually utilize that data. That's important. Okay. Utilization of data will bring you the next thing, that is basically using Excel. Because we usually don't think of utilization of data besides our project data or client's requirement, right? So there are so many data which are available, right? How many tips you have written? Who can basically give me a exact count? How many tips you have written? Who can? 35. What are those? Have you listed basically somewhere?
change it from changes.
Filter your name. Huh? Or what?
GPS my product or
GPN. Good. GPS has a little Excel. Hence a bit. Okay. So data are basically around and you can actually utilize that data. Okay. So let me go back to how to create charts and pivot table. Okay. This is a very pivot table is something which मैं Excel खोलता हूँ, I basically starts using pivot table. That is what my favorite, one of my best friend. Okay, pivot table. So let me basically use a pivot table on a particular data. And simultaneously I'll actually show you like how to use connections. Okay. Fine. So I have a policy file over here. Okay. This particular policy file is a tab delimited file. Okay. It's having just 252,000 record. Okay. So I'll basically use this particular sheet as it is. Okay. Right. And I'll basically use that on the Excel file. Okay. So we'll see the connectivity as well as pivot table. Okay. Both. Okay. So we have data here, and there is a from other sources. Okay, so I'm going to actually select this from data connection widget. This is not the right place. I'm going to create a connection first. Okay, so let me actually add it. Browse. I'll basically use the text file. Okay, and then desktop, policy file. Okay, immediately basically pops up with some sample data for me. Go next. I'll use the tab delimiter because I know it is tab delimited. And then from here, right, you can like this particular column, okay, is a number field, okay, because it's having an amount, okay. So I can actually change it to I don't see the option over here. Okay, let me make it general. And if you have my email address, basically, like, you can actually have my Skype address, right? If you want any help, right, on Excel,